up, man? It's your big brother K-Rino. Check it out, man. I got a question. Are concerts today different than they were back in the days? When I say back in the days, I would even go back saying maybe 15 years ago. 10, 12, 15 years ago. The reason why I asked this question because, I like to watch a lot of live shows online. Um, during COVID times, I'm not going to as many shows, and shows are just really cranking back up. That's another story. But when you watch shows nowadays, I have noticed something a little bit different compared to how shows used to be, like I would say 10, 15, 20 years ago, where the crowd was engaged with the audience. The energy is there. They're focused on the stage, looking at the artist that they came to see, and they're singing along with the song. And you still get that, don't get me wrong. But sometimes when I read comments, when I watch certain live shows online, people in the comments will complain about a crowd not being as hyped or as engaged with an artist that they like. They're like, man, this crowd was dead. How can they not appreciate this artist that's on the stage? Look how dead the crowd is. He's giving a great performance. She's giving a great performance. So I was watching one particular show, and I came to the conclusion that it wasn't so much that the crowd was dead. The crowd wasn't dead, y'all. What it was is that everybody was in their own movie. Everybody was on their phone. So the artist is right there in front of them, but they're filming it on their phone, and they're looking at their phones to see how their recording is looking or as they're doing it. So they're not actually looking at the artist. And they're so focused on looking at the footage on their phone live that they're not engaged in the performance. Now you still have some people that are singing the words, but it's not that 100% crowd participation like we were used to seeing pre smartphones and all this different stuff now that everybody's got, because everybody wants to go live. Everybody wants to show that they at the show. They want to show their friends who not at the show. That's the world that we live in. So it's not that the crowds are dead. They're just preoccupied with doing their own thing, social media wise. And that's a weird dynamic, because when you come to the show to see a performer that you like, one of the biggest, I would assume that the biggest aspect of that would be to actually see that person in person. It's like, wow, that's really him. Wow, that's really her. And they right there, but you looking at your phone. You're viewing them through a screen when they actually live. Now, I've had an experience like that, but it was just in a different mode for a different reason. And I had to catch myself. I went to a football game at the Dallas Cowboys Stadium when one of my buddies was playing for the Cowboys. And the stadium is so incredible. It was pretty much brand new at that time, state of the art. They had a screen above the field that showed the actual game as the game is going on below the screen. And the clarity And the high definition of that screen was so precise that I found myself looking at the screen more than looking down at the field at the actual game. And I had to catch myself a couple of times. Hey man, you at the game, but I can't see that good. So that was my reason for looking at the screen more. But when you go to these shows, I would think that you would want to get the full experience of actually seeing your favorite artist and participating in the show and getting that full vibe. But these days, that is the experience. So I don't want people to confuse a dead crowd with a 2021 social media oriented crowd, because it's a big difference. It doesn't mean that they didn't enjoy that concert any less than somebody who was fully engaged 15, 20 years ago. I can use myself as an example. I'm not the kind of performer that when you come to my shows, people are not going to be just bouncing, jumping up and down, hollering, screaming, going crazy, because I'm more on a cerebral. You gotta listen. So I used to make the mistake back in the days of feeling like, well, man, I must have didn't do too good because everybody was just looking. A lot of times I do a show and people are just looking. They might give you the, so I'm like, man, I didn't do too good that night. But then when I would come off the stage, everybody is, oh man, they clamoring because they were listening. So you just have to be able to recognize what kind of artist it is and what kind of crowd, what kind of connection they've developed. Because the show where the people are just listening, they're locked in and tuned in and hanging on your every word, that show is just as great to them as the show everybody's jumping up and down and making the building shake. So y'all leave y'all thoughts below, man. Let me know what y'all think about this topic, man. It just crossed my mind as I was watching some concerts. And subscribe to the channel, man. Peace.